So thank you guys so much for coming. I'm so glad you decided to participate in the Body Project. And all of you are here because you deal with some sort of body image issue in your own life, which is really common among women and girls especially. But research shows that when we get together and we talk about those issues and talk about those things that we deal with that are in the mass media and how to challenge those pressures to be thin, that it makes us feel better about our body. And this particular Body Project is known to be one of the best programs in class for improving your body image and reduce that unhealthy weight gain and eating problems. And one thing we'd like to do is to videotape this session, and so I just want to make sure you guys are all okay with that. Okay? Mm-hmm. Great. So we're going to start out and just introduce ourselves and maybe say what you do and some interesting fun fact about yourself. So I'll go ahead and start. My name is Kirsten, and I've worked with college students for the past 5.5 years, doing activities and advising student groups and whatnot. A little interesting fact about myself is I grew up in the Danish capital of America, which is in Solvang, California. It's this really tiny Danish town. Everything is Danish. Lots of bakeries and fun stuff like that. So who wants to start?
I'll start.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer.
I'm Jennifer, and I'm an undergraduate student, and one interesting thing about me is that I like to surf.
That's very fun. Thanks for sharing.
I'm Kelly. I'm also a student, and an interesting fact about me is I have a really fat cat named Ruby.
What kind of cat is it?
She's like a tuxedo cat. She's like black and white. Yeah.
Well, hopefully over the next 4 sessions we'll get to know each other a little bit better and continue to share information about those things that we deal with in terms of body image. So the group is 4 sessions, and it's really important that you attend all 4 sessions and that you participate and complete all the in-between exercises that we assign you. The more you do and the more you participate, the more you're going to get out of the class. And so it's important also to note that it's also voluntary. So we understand that it's your choice to be here, but we hope that you really do choose to come. And so are each of you willing to actively participate in the class today?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, so this is what we're going to go over these next 4 sessions. So this first session, we're going to really talk about the thin ideal. We're going to define the thin ideal and explore its origin. And then we're going to examine the cost of pursuing that ideal. And then the third session, we're going to explore ways to resist those pressures to be thin, and also discuss how to challenge our personal body-related concerns. And then we're going to learn how to talk more positively about our bodies, and finally we're going to talk about how we can respond to future pressures to be thin. So we think about life down the line, what are those things that could come up that could cause us to fall back into the same habits again. So again, it's important that everyone attends all 4 meetings. If you do need to miss a session, if you could just let me know ahead of time, that would be great. And then we'll schedule a time to meet just for about 15 minutes to go over what you missed during that session. So that way the next session you come back, you're ready to go and you know what we talked about. And I'll do my best to call or text you or email you before each session, just as a little reminder, because I know how busy our schedules get and how easy it is to forget what's coming up. So you guys ready to get started? Okay, so I'm going to spread these pictures out on the table. And I want you to look through them and choose 2 pictures that really appeal to you. And we're going to talk about those. So go ahead and move them around and pick whatever. Okay, does everyone have 2? Mm-hmm. Perfect. Okay, we're going to go around the room and I want you to tell me what it is that attracted you to those particular pictures. And I'm going to write that on the board. So Megan, do you mind starting?
Sure. Should I show everyone the picture?
Sure.
Okay, so this first one is girl on the beach. I picked this one because out of the ones laying out, it looked kind of the most natural to me.
Okay.
Even though her shirt's half undone on the beach. And then I picked this Calvin Klein one, and honestly, it's because growing up, my mom would constantly rant about Calvin Klein ads whenever we would drive by them, and so that just stuck out, just her talking about the kind of images specifically related to the brand.
Are there particular physical features as you look at those that you think drew your attention to those?
Kind of, I guess, like long legs and blonde hair, very common throughout.
Ingrid.
Well, the first one I chose was this one.
And I chose this image. Okay, so now that you said what you liked about the supermodels, what do you think these pictures say about what society values about women's appearance?
They're not smiling, which is interesting to me, because usually I would think that we would value that, but apparently we don't in media.
What else?
Then they're all very thin, big hair.
Yeah, they kind of like
Always.
wispy hair.
What other physical features do you think describe what society wants in a woman?
Tall.
Tall.
Little long legs in all the descriptions.
Anything else?
Delicate.
Delicate.
Really confident.
Confident. So what are we told? You kind of have said a lot of these things, but what are we told that the perfect woman looks like then? If you want to use some of these words if you want.
Tall and beautiful.
Tall and beautiful. Well, all of these things that you guys are describing, this is what we would call the thin ideal, which is this idea of this thin, toned, busty woman. So that's what the thin ideal is. And one thing we want to stress is that it's not the same as the healthy ideal. So it's important to be healthy and to work out and eat healthily, but there's a different extreme that comes with the thin ideal. You guys talked a lot about how like thin they were and really long legs and that sort of thing. And that would go with like the supermodel. It's this extreme that's really unrealistic, that the normal everyday woman probably isn't going to be able to get to. And it's really important to remember with these pictures is that how much they've been photoshopped. They say like the average picture in a magazine has like 2.5 hours of work done on each picture to make it look the way it is, which is pretty crazy if you think about it and talk about the makeup and how natural that looks, and there's a lot of airbrushing that goes along with that. And so the supermodel look or this thin ideal goes with some really unhealthy weight control behaviors and excessive exercising. Like when movie stars are preparing for films, they often will work out 6 to 8 hours a day in order to get their body to look the way they need to. Which who in the normal life has 6 to 8 hours a day to work out? It's not very realistic. And so with the healthy idea, the goal is health and fitness and longevity. So the healthy lifestyle for a long time, not a short period of time. And a healthy body has muscles and adequate fat tissue, so some fat on the body, which we don't really see a lot of. Also involves feeling good about how your body feels and how it works. And that's what we want to get to. We want you to have a healthy body image. And so a question for you guys, has the thin ideal always been ideal for feminine attractiveness? Or has there ever been a time in history where the perfect woman looked a little bit different? Can you think about those times and what that times would be?
I think they have looked different in the past. Like Marilyn Monroe wasn't ever this thin. I think she was a size 12 or something. And she was very idolized, and a lot of women liked to look like her.
Yeah. What are other ways do you think this is promoted to us? This idea to be thin.
I think it could come from your family too, if they've sort of grown up with it and their parents may have had those ideals as well, then it kind of just gets passed down, maybe unintentionally or like very subtly.
the diet ads and the diet industry in general is really pushes that on us. The quick fixes to get thin or lose 2 dress sizes in 2 weeks. It's pretty unrealistic for a long term. And I think you said it too, that it just portrays one type of woman. Everyone looks the same in these. There wasn't a lot of difference between all of your describing each woman, other than little things on what they're wearing. But in the bigger picture, they all sort of look the same. The long legs, the thin, they're tall, blonde hair especially. So, and how is the thin ideal promoted to us? Touched on this a little bit.
Through media.
Mm-hmm.
Often.
Yeah.
You can see in magazines and on TV and anytime anyone's trying to sell something, they usually use, with an attractive person to do that.
Yeah. Have any of you been the recipient of a negative comment about your weight or your shape from friends or family or dating partners? And how did that make you feel? And if any of you feel open enough to share some of those things that have been said to you or a friend, and how that made you feel or your friend feel.
I faced a lot of criticism. I was really into ballet when I was in high school, but I was always told to get my hips under because my butt stuck out a lot, and so it's not like I could have done anything about that. So that was kind of hard.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing. That touches on a whole other industry, like a dance industry that promotes a thin ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Any other? How do these comments make us feel?
Inadequate. Yeah.
Inadequate.
Yeah.
Just self-conscious, something that I wouldn't have been aware of otherwise. Now you're kind of hyper-attuned to.
Mm-hmm.
And almost like you're being held back because you don't look a certain way.
It doesn't have a lot to do with the kind of person that you are, I think, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of strange.
Definitely makes, especially as women, we tend to think a lot and overthink things, and so that becomes the train of thought in our own heads of, okay, this comment was made, and then you just think about that constantly. So when you see yourself in the mirror reflection, that's what you see, rather than who you really are or your personality. How do thin ideal messages from the media impact the way you feel about your body?
It's hard to try and think positively about your body if it doesn't look that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of comparing yourself.
It's like, if this is the standard, then how do I meet or not meet these criteria
Yeah,
for
definitely.
what I should look like?
Just second guessing yourself, sort of, even going to the grocery store and checking at the checkout line, and then you see all the models, and you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't have gotten the pasta or something.
Yeah. Katie, how about you?
In 5th grade, I was made fun of by a bunch of kids. They would call me anorexic, and I guess back then I would just try to laugh it off because being too thin in today's society isn't necessarily viewed as negatively, so I didn't really know how to take it.
Yeah. What does our culture tell us will happen if we're able to look like this thin ideal? So if we can look like this girl in this picture, how do you think our life will be?
Fabulous.
Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Perfect.
We'd be happy.
Mm-hmm. Happy.
Basically, whatever the ad is trying to sell, then you can afford that, or you can have that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Get your dreamy crush.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll be confident and seductive.
Mm-hmm. Yep, all of those things. Do you really think those things will happen if you get thinner?
No.
No. Yeah. But it's amazing how that can make us feel that way. Yeah. It really will have little impact, because no matter what we do, there's always a little bit more that we think we can do to get that way. So let's talk a little bit about those costs that are associated with pursuing this thin ideal. So we discussed what it is and where it comes from, that media and how it's portrayed to us. Let's talk about those costs. So what are the costs of trying to look like the thin ideal for the individual person?
Actual financial costs or like
Both financial or emotional, mental.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can do your body a lot of harm if you're not and physically.
Yeah.
I believe I was reading somewhere that it's actually worse to be even slightly underweight than slightly overweight for the toll that it takes on your body. Your bones start, your bone density, and it's really hard on your heart and things of that sort to be. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like it's worse to be 5 pounds underweight than 50 pounds overweight because of the toll it takes on your body.
Yeah.
I feel like you'd be tired a lot of the time
Mm-hmm.
because you'd be so focused on like not eating and exercising and to try and look like that, and then you'd just feel really run down.
Mm-hmm.
And then going along with that, like your social relationships and things that like you previously valued, you may not have the energy to put into those things that you
Right.
are putting into this,
'Cause
achieving
you're
this
focusing
ideal.
everything on achieving that. Yeah.
Mhm.
You guys mentioned before your self-confidence or your self-worth is definitely damaged because you don't see yourself worthy as who you are, so you have to get to this other ideal. They said also, I heard that if you're too thin, to go along with what you were saying, like women won't have like their monthly periods and whatnot, which is really unhealthy if it's because of being underweight or whatnot, which can cause so many more issues down the road if you wanted to have kids or start a family or anything like that. That can be affected by the thin ideal as well. And so if so many women are dealing with these issues, then what are the costs for society? You have all these women who are trying to get the thin ideal and are struggling financially or struggling with their self-worth or struggling health-wise. What can that do for society?
I think it's negative in the sense that if all of these women have such poor self-worth, and therefore are not able to be their best and contribute to society as their best, I think that's a negative attribute.
Yeah.
And to an extreme, if all women are, malnourished and not taking care of their bodies appropriately, well, we're the ones who bear children. So again, it's to the point where it's affecting your menstrual cycle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
And it affects the way that women see other women in society and men see women and treat them, and kind of based on these expectations, the interactions between other people
Yeah.
based on how you fit or do not fit. And
Definitely.
yeah.
Any thoughts from this side of the table?
I agree with both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely takes a toll in how people view other people. And it's like, I think we would be quick to judge someone else because they don't look like this.
Yeah. If you have a lot of women who are dealing with all these internal things that are going on, you can have a lot of increased mental health issues, which affects the mental health industry. And depression can be a huge part of that, which can affect a lot of things. So if women aren't benefiting from this, then who benefits from the thin ideal?
the companies who are able to sell something because they have
Yeah.
the ideal woman as a product endorsement.
People getting the money for it. Yeah.
And like the diet industries selling pills and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
workout stuff.
Yeah.
Makeup and
Mm-hmm.
cure-all lotions and
Yeah.
things that make you look 30 years younger
Right.
and all those types of things.
Yeah. So are you one of the people who benefit from the thin ideal? You personally?
No.
No. So given all of those costs, do you think it makes sense to try and look like the thin ideal?
No.
No.
It's amazing how different logic and
Yeah.
society pressure is. Like, I think if you ask any woman, like, not any woman, but the majority of women, like, what lengths would you go to? They would say that's ridiculous. But
Yeah.
then, I think in like group conversations and talking about vacations or, even goals or things like the thin ideal comes up a lot. You don't think about it logically when it's just because it's so ingrained in every day in your decisions.
Definitely. And that's definitely a point of going through something like this, is to stop for a minute and say, okay, let's really talk about this and let's really think through, what is this doing to us as women, and how does this make us think about our body? So in those moments of girl talk, when you're all talking about the things you eat and whatnot, you can maybe stop for a second and be like, wait a second, like I've thought about this, and really it isn't worth it. So, all right. Well, so we've started talking about the thin ideal, and we're gonna assign your first at-home exercises. So if you open your folders, there's it says letter to an adolescent girl, if you want to pull that out. So I'm wondering if you would be willing to write a letter to a teenage girl who's struggling with her body image about the costs associated with trying to look like the thin ideal. And we probably all know that you start with these issues and this thinking, not necessarily in college now, but way back when you're a teenage girl and you're going through all those fun changes and everything. Now you think as many costs as you can, and you can work with each other or work with others, and the more other women you can tell about this stuff and help them think through it also can help them as well. And then I want you to bring the letter to our next meeting so you can read it and we can just discuss those feelings that came about when you're writing it. And I'm also going to record you reading the letter, and then if you want and you're willing, we can post that video online at our website, or you can post it on YouTube or on Facebook or MySpace or whatever it is you want to get the word out. And although we'd like to encourage you to post it, you're not required to do so you can make that decision. So we'll have a digital camera here to record the readings, but you can bring your own camera or phone to record if you want to take that home for you. So, and then second, there's also in there, your assignment number 2 is to stand in front of a mirror. It's a self-affirmation exercise. And I want you guys to look at yourself in as little clothing as you feel comfortable, and try to find 10 qualities about yourself, positive qualities that you like, and write those down. It includes physical, emotional, intellectual, and social qualities, so we want everything. You might like the shape of your arms, or the strength of your legs, or your long dark hair, or the sound of your laugh, or that you're a good friend to people. All of those things we want you to write down. And then bring it to next week and we'll share those. So I understand that can be really hard, especially trying to come up with those things about yourself. But we want to make sure you at least list some physical attributes about yourself. So make sure there is some things that, like your body shape, some sort of body shape type of things. It may be difficult at first, but we want you to do this because it's important to recognize these areas about yourself. And past students who have gone through this found it really helpful in the end to come up with those positive qualities. So make sure you bring those so we can share them with the group. We won't share all 10, but we'll share a handful of them. So does everyone understand what we're asking you to do between the sessions? Can I have one person repeat our exercises?
So we're supposed to write a letter to an adolescent girl, just talking about, or like helping them if they're struggling with a body image, and kind of advice that we can give them. And then the second exercise is to write 10 or a handful of positive things about ourselves, some physical and other things that we like, in front of a mirror.
Perfect. And try to get at least 10 or more if you can. So don't feel like you have to stop at 10. If you want to keep going, you make a list as long as you want. So our experience shows that if you do these exercises, that you're going to get the most out of the class. So again, I really want to encourage you guys to make sure to find time to do these exercises. And just make sure to include your name and your signature on the home exercises, and then I'll collect them after we go over them next session. So thanks you guys for coming, and I look forward to our next session.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming to session 2. I'm so glad you guys are all here. I just want to make sure you're all willing to actively participate in today's session. So if I could get a yes from everybody.
Yep.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks. So last week I asked you guys to write a letter to an adolescent girl about the costs associated with pursuing the thin ideal. So I'd like to get a video clip of you reading your letters so we can post it on our group site or on YouTube. Jennifer, will you read your letter?
Sure. My letter is to my little cousin who's she's approaching her teenage years. So, dear Caitlin, you are approaching high school where you may encounter people who expect you to look and act a certain way. Specifically, you may feel pressure to diet and change your body to fit the ideal that society expects of you. While you may be encouraged to diet and exercise excessively, there are a number of reasons why this is a bad idea. First of all, you are a strong, beautiful, and amazing girl. You have a wonderful soul and a fun personality. You are athletic and strong and have so many reasons to celebrate your body. Second, you could do harmful damage to your mental.
Ingrid, do you want to go ahead and read your letter?
Sure. Mine's just written to a teen in general, no one in specific. So, dear teen, I'd love to be able to tell you that the pressures to be thin go away when you get older. I'd love to be able to give you some small piece of advice that solves your body image problems and eliminates the fears that cause them. I'd love to be able to say that there is a simple solution to all of this, but to tell you these things would be to lie to you. The truth is that there are no magic words, no quick fixes, nothing I can say to you will solve your body image problems. But I can help you understand why you feel the urge to be thin and tell you why you should reevaluate your own ideas about yourself. I can help you to understand what you should truly focus on to better yourself and become a more happy, healthy you. First, let's describe the thin ideal. When you think of a beautiful woman, what does she look like? Probably a tall woman, size 0 or 2.
Everyone, clearly you guys spent a lot of time writing those letters, and I really appreciate that. You guys did a great job. If you could make sure to pass those in to me and just make sure your name and signature is on each one of those, that would be great. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much. So we, in your folders, there is a consent form. If you guys are willing to let us post that online, we just need you to sign that. If for any reason you feel uncomfortable with that, that's no problem. Just let me know after class, and I'll go ahead and collect those consent forms after class. So, perfect. So the other exercise we asked you to do was to stand in front of a mirror with as little clothing on as you felt comfortable and write down some positive attributes about yourself. How did you feel when you did this exercise?
A little uncomfortable at first, a little awkward. I think it was harder than I anticipated to come up with, especially those physical attributes. But by the end, it was kind of a positive experience. It was challenging at first, but the result was nice.
Not typically.
Yeah.
Just stand there and look.
Yeah.
It's a little nerve-wracking.
Mm-hmm. So if I could get you guys to share just 3 things off of your list and maybe try and choose those physical things that you're able to write down, or at least 2 physical, and you could do 1 non-physical feature. So why don't we start with Ingrid? If you could share 3.
So 3 things that I wrote down. 1, I like my eyes. I do like my legs that they're long and they're athletic and so strong. And then another 3rd thing is just my sense of humor.
Perfect. Kelly?
I also like my eyes, and I think I have a nice smile, and I think I'm smart.
Good. Perfect. Thanks you guys for sharing those. I know it's hard to do, but I hope now that you're able to write those down that you can focus on those positive things, especially in those times where you're feeling challenged or pressured, and just remember that list of positive things you wrote down, and it can help ease that pressure of the thin ideal that kind of surrounds us. And given that these are potent pressures, we're going to discuss some ways to resist those. So again, I'd like to collect those. So again, make sure your name and signature is on those. Perfect. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, we're going to do some role playing. It's going to be really fun. I'm going to go through some examples of thin ideal statements that you might hear from friends or family members, and we're going to practice how you could respond to those. So I'll play the person that's obsessed with a thin ideal, and your job is to try and convince me that I shouldn't be. That's not the way to think. So feel free to use any of those costs that we talked about last session in pursuing the thin ideal, or that we've identified earlier on. So who would like to start? Don't be nervous. Jennifer, do you mind starting?
Sure.
Okay. So swimsuit season is just around the corner, and so I think I'm gonna start skipping breakfast so I can take off some of this extra weight.
Is that really healthy? You'll be starving by lunchtime.
That's okay though. I'll look really good in my bikini though.
Yeah, but is that really something that you can maintain for a long period of time?
I don't know. I mean, I think so. I think I could do it.
I'm wondering, like, wouldn't that affect your mood? Like, wouldn't you get really sad and cranky?
Good. Those are good. Those are really good. All definitely things you want to focus on. So who wants to go next? Okay. I just saw this ad for this new weight loss pill. I think I'm going to order it. I can finally be as thin as I want to be.
If you're just taking a pill, though, I mean, one, how much does that cost? And two, what about when you're off the pill?
I've been saving up for a while, so I'm not worried about the money part of it. I have money.
But are you?
It's hard to come up with these things right off the top of your head, but definitely things that people say around us. So how does it feel to do those role plays?
It feels a little unnatural almost, like when your friends talk about things like that, even if you disagree, or I guess even if I disagree, I'm not as like confrontational about it, like telling them that there are other ways to go about it. I kind of just listen and let them, talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels almost invasive to be telling them like how to think about it.
Yeah.
And how to think about their body, like.
Definitely.
I think it's hard too because it's so common for people to struggle with their weight or like have the thin ideal, and so like telling someone else not to is difficult when I think most of us have struggled with that at one point or another.
Yeah, so it's hard I thought that same thing too. Who am I to push this?
It's like going against the norm.
Right, it's like something that unites us. Like we all complain together
Right.
about our bodies as
We
women,
bonded
and then
over- yeah.
if you're like the one person who's
Yeah.
kind of like confrontational about it, people might think strangely of you.
Well, do you think it is beneficial for you to challenge people when they make thin ideal statements?
I think so. I think that's the only way that you're going to ultimately change anyone's, with a common perception
Yeah.
of what's appropriate. Even if it is a little against the norm,
Mhm.
that's what it takes.
Yeah. Good. So for next week, we'd like you to do a couple exercises at home. And the first is to give examples from your real life of pressures to be thin that you experience. So in your folders is your homework assignment. And then we'd like you to come up with a verbal challenge like we practiced to each of those pressures like we did in the role plays. So let's practice it before you do it on your own. So one example could be your mom might comment on how another mom has really let herself go because she gained weight. So how could you respond to that thin ideal statement?
Maybe just comment, I guess, trying to come up with a different term other than letting herself go. That implies that if it's a negative thing that she's gained weight or that she doesn't care about her body anymore and that she's gained weight, which kind of we discussed last session how being even a little bit underweight is often harder on your body than being overweight. And so maybe pointing that out and to say maybe that's what's healthy for her.
Yeah.
Or also, yeah, so I guess taking away that negative connotation and working towards that.
Yeah. And something you mentioned last week, how we're kind of quick to judge other people. So you can use that as well. Like, Mom, it's not our place to judge, or, we don't know what's going on in her life that could be causing some extra stress or whatnot. So, good. So come up, if you can, with at least 5 examples from your life. And the examples, the verbal challenge that you come up with probably won't be how you actually responded. And we understand that. So the point is to try and get you to start thinking about that from now on. So looking back, how could you have responded differently? So how you might respond now based on what you know. And then the second exercise is to come up with a top 10 list of things girls and women can do to resist the thin ideal. So unlike the verbal challenge, which you challenge the thin ideal at an individual level, we want you to think at a societal level. So what can you avoid, say, or do or learn to battle this unhealthy beauty ideal in your community, and write down your top 10 list of things. So some examples, just to get you thinking, is you could write a letter to the editor of a magazine who only puts ads in of women who are promoting this thin ideal. Or write a letter to a company, like a diet company, that you're refusing to use this because it's promoting the thin ideal. Stop subscribing to a fashion magazine or that sort of thing. So I give you some ideas of what you could do. Perfect. So again, make sure you include your full name on there and your signature, and then I'll collect those next week when we meet. Does someone want to repeat what our assignments are? Katie, do you mind telling what our assignments are?
You want us to fill out our verbal challenge form and turn it into you next week.
And then the second one.
The exercise 4.
Yeah.
You want us to think of 10 things that women can do to resist the thin ideal.
Perfect. And again, I want to emphasize it's really important to do these exercises, and as hard as it could be to come up with these ideas, the more you put yourself into it, the more you're going to get out of it. So thank you guys so much for coming, and I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks.
Well, you guys coming to our third session, which I can't believe it's already the third session. I again want to say that your participation is voluntary, but I'd love to hear that you guys are willing to actively participate in today's session. You guys all willing?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, perfect. So we're going to go over your first assignment that you had, which was to provide examples of from your personal life of pressures to be thin, and to come up with how you might verbally challenge those now today. So would each of you like to share one example from your homework? Jennifer, will you go ahead and share?
Sure. I think a lot of times, like a friend will say something like, I should really do an extra 2 hours at the gym today because I ate that piece of cake yesterday, or something like that. So I guess my response would be, yeah, but wasn't the cake delicious? It's so nice to indulge in a piece of cake occasionally because it tastes so good. If you do want to go to the gym, why don't you and I go for an hour and take like a workout class together? And there's no need to go for 2 hours because we have better things to do with our day instead of going to the gym all day. And we can show off our bodies and show that we appreciate them by getting a massage or something.
Yeah, those are good. That's a good balance of like, yeah, let's still be healthy, but let's not push it too far, you know, and it's okay to eat cake sometimes. It's good, so. How about you, Megan?
I have had a couple of my friends get jeans that are smaller than the ones that they currently wear, you know, kind of gold jeans that they want to fit into. And I guess my response to them would be, you know, you've got so many cute jeans and clothes now.
And said, you know, with the statistic that the average size woman is 5'4" and 140 pounds, that's might be your ideal, but it's not really realistic. And
That's good. Thank you guys so much for doing that. I really appreciate it. Last week, we talked about those ideas of pursuing the thin ideal and did those role plays. We're going to come back with some comebacks to the statements I was making. And so we're going to practice that again this week, but just with a little bit different strategy. Last week we went back and forth and sort of debated, and this week I just want you to come up with a really quick comeback. So a quick statement that you could say to sort of divert the conversation to something different. So your goal is to simply derail the fat talk is really what we're going to do. You might do this by pointing out the cost of pursuing the thin ideal, or just end the fat talk altogether. So an example could be, I could say, does this shirt make my love handles too visible? And you could say, I think it's best if we don't ruminate about appearance issues like that. And then just, that'll be it. So you guys ready for that? Okay, who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, perfect. Lindsay has really gained weight over the holidays.
Well, I think she's just going through stuff and we don't need to judge.
Perfect. Want to do one?
Sure.
Okay. Do you think Jennifer Lopez is a little too heavy?
I don't know that I really have an opinion one way or the other. Did you hear about last night's episode of American Idol.
Yeah.
Nice.
Great job. Do you think you could challenge your friend or family members when they make thin ideal statements?
Yeah.
A little bit more practice. Perfect. So at this point, it's really helpful for us to talk about the reasons why we signed up for the class, and that we can get some feedback from the group and challenge those thoughts that we have about ourselves. So I hope everyone will honestly share why they signed up for the group. Some examples from the past, because girls have signed up because of negative comments someone's made or because concerns about the shape of their body. For me, one reason that this is really important is an issue for me is how tall I am, and I actually used to be pretty short, and I grew 10 inches in high school, so I was 5 foot when I entered high school and 5'10" when I left, and so it's just this like huge spurt all at once, and so I went from being like shortest in the class to the tallest, and that when you're a really tall girl and there's a lot of short boys, it makes the dating, it becomes a little bit challenging, you know, because you don't want to date the guy that's shorter than you, so. That's one example for me. Do you mind starting for us?
Sure. I decided to do this because I have had thin ideals in the past, and even though deep down I think I knew I was an average weight and everything was fine, but I kind of wanted to justify that and bring it more to the surface.
Great. Thanks for sharing.
For me, I've always been pretty athletic, so I've kind of felt that I have more muscle, which makes certain parts
One
of my
of the
body.
main reasons that I signed up was because I have a friend who's struggling with weight issues, and I'm kind of like finding myself getting caught up in it a little bit and like feeling self-conscious about myself.
Thank you guys so much for sharing. I know sometimes it's really hard to put yourself out there and be so vulnerable, but I hope as we've grown as a group that was a little bit more comfortable for you. So listening to you, it sounds like it'd be helpful to some of you to challenge some of your fears and concerns related to your body image. And so do you think there are things you don't do because of body image concerns that you have? Things you avoid?
I don't like bathing suit shopping.
You're like, no.
Yeah, sometimes I'll feel a little uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Feel like kind of be overcritical of my body.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't like wearing really tight clothes if I'm feeling particularly self-conscious.
So your next homework assignment, if you look in your folder, we're going to have you do a little behavioral challenge. So we'd like you to challenge yourself to do something that you currently don't do because of body image concerns. And doing this will hopefully increase your confidence and disprove your fears. The thing I do want to say is that every person I've had do this has had a positive experience come out of it. So as fearful and as challenging as it can be, I really want to encourage you guys and push you guys to do this. So here are some examples just to get you thinking and give you a second to think about ideas. It could be wearing shorts to school if you have body image issues with your legs, or going to a pool in a swimsuit, or exercising in public, wearing your hair up if that, your hair can sometimes be a comfort for you, or not wearing any makeup at all. That could be pretty challenging, or revealing a part of your body, such as your feet or knees or arms that you tend to cover up because you don't like how they look. So we want you to try and do this at least twice this next week. So I want you guys to write down what you're going to do, and then we're going to share that with the group sort of as an accountability, like here's what I'm going to do. And then I hope if you guys see each other throughout the week and you see them doing this, really try to give each other some positive feedback and encourage each other. So why don't you go ahead and write down what you want to do. Great. Does anyone want to share their ideas first?
Mine was to wear shorts to the gym.
Shorts to the gym. Perfect.
Mine was to not wear makeup. I'm really into makeup. So I just always feel
Those are all sound like great ones. So remember, you're going to try and do this twice next week. So maybe pick some days when you go home that you're going to do it, so it kind of sets it in your calendar to make sure you remember to do that. Your second exercise from last week, was to write down a top 10 list of things that girls and women can do to resist the thin ideal. So if you want to pull that out. Things that you can avoid, say, or do to fight this social pressure. And this is what we like to call body activism. I wonder if you guys could share 3 things off of your list that you came up with. Kelly, do you want to start?
Sure. One of them I said was don't buy fashion magazines to look at models. Another one I said learn about healthy weight practices and like the average weight for your height and age. And then if you portray confidence, no one really sees your weight.
Those are good.
Kind of similar to Kelly's, I said to unsubscribe from any fashion magazines that I'm currently subscribed to.
On mirrors or something, like you're beautiful just the way you are. If you ever feel a tendency to criticize yourself in the mirror.
So this next week, actually, what we're going to ask you to do is take 2 of these things that you wrote down and actually do them. So it could be putting Post-its up maybe in your residence hall, in the bathrooms, in the mirror that have positive statements and say like you're beautiful the way you are. You could put up a love your body poster maybe in your room. And sometimes girls have gone to like bookstores and into the diet section and put positive comments in the books, just stuck them on random pages. When people are flipping through, they might run into these positive things. So I want you to choose 2 behaviors from your list, or maybe if something else that we came up with or someone else said struck your fancy and you want to do that, you can go ahead and write those down. So go ahead and circle the things you want to do. And if I can go ahead and collect your homework from this last week, so both the verbal challenge form and your top 10 list. That'd be great. And make sure your names, signatures are on each of those. Great, thanks. Since we have a little bit of time, I'd love to hear from you guys. Maybe something that really hit home for you today, or something that you thought was really interesting.
I like doing the one response exercise when to stop fat talk.
Yeah.
Just like quick diversions. I like that.
I think it's cool that we're actually starting to talk about doing something about this rather than just kind of like talking about what we might do. We're actually going to go and do it, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I liked the subject change she implemented with that exercise.
Yeah. Just avoid that conversation altogether. Yeah. So your homework for next week, does anyone want to repeat that for us? 2 assignments. You guys remember there?
We are going to do 2 of our body image, things that I guess challenge our body image concerns. We're going to do 2 activities of that. And then the other one is to take 2 of our exercises, or 2 of the things that we listed in this last week's homework about to fight social pressure, body activism acts.
Great. Awesome. Well, I'll see you guys all next week, and that'll be our final session, actually. So, okay. See you guys then.
Thanks. Thank you.
Welcome to our last session. I can't believe it's already been 4 weeks and that we're here on our last one. So again, I want to say that participation is voluntary. I'd love for you guys to all actively participate. So are you all willing to do that in last session? Great, thanks. So we're going to go over that first homework assignment from last week, and we asked you to do something that you don't normally do because of concerns about your body. And I'd love to hear how that went and reactions and what that felt like. So if you go around the room, if you could share that, that would be really great. Who would like to start?
Well,
Okay.
So my challenge was to go to the gym wearing shorts this past week, and so I did, and it was really nerve-wracking. I was walking in and kind of watching people to look at my legs, and then but once I got started with my routine, I didn't even think about it, and I left and like legs feeling sore from my workout and just feeling really good rather than concerned about how they looked. It was like proud of what my body did there, so that was really good.
Did you find it useful to do that?
Yeah, and it was a lot more comfortable than in capris or pants, you know, in the hot machine room. So it was liberating to like get the breeze there.
So what do you think you learned from doing that?
That when I get caught up in little things like what people are going to think if I wear shorts to the gym, it's really just kind of giving them more power than me. So it was nice to take that back.
Yeah. A lot of times it's just in our own head what we think, and no one
Totally.
else even noticed the difference at all.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that you guys were all willing to try something new. I know that's sometimes really scary and again puts you in a very vulnerable spot. But hopefully you can continue to challenge yourself even when you're not in this class. Continually think of those things that what am I avoiding that I could maybe do to kind of change my own mindset and my own issues with my own body. And then also, last time we asked you to do 2 body activism exercises. So let's go around the room and see what you did and how that went. So, what do you want to share? Ingrid, do you want to go first?
Sure. So one of my body activism goals was to not purchase any brands that were supporting unhealthy dieting habits. And that one was pretty easy for me to avoid, but I also was encouraging my roommate who usually replaces a meal with those bars as well. And so when we went grocery shopping, just kind of, encouraging her by not purchasing them myself as well and pointing out different options, like we can buy this sandwich stuff instead.
Was she receptive to that? How did that go over?
She was, and I think again, like me not doing it was helped her as well. Like it was kind of, usually if we both buy this, we were both buying the same food and sharing the grocery bill. So kind of like me not picking that out, I think set the stage for her to kind of feel comfortable doing that too.
I live in a residence hall with like 30 other college women, and so the bathroom is like a place to sort of congregate, and sometimes it can get really negative. So I put like Post-it notes on the mirrors that said you're beautiful just the way you are, and you look great, and to try and like curb some of the negative self-talk and comparison.
How do you think this type of exercise could help make a difference? Maybe individually and societally. It's a word.
I think just like small changes are a really good place to start, and they're really meaningful. And like Ingrid said, like they're kind of contagious. Like if one person kind of takes a stand against, negative self-talk and negative body image, then other people will start to see that and enact that as well. The positive
Realize and making a concerted effort to like change it and realize, oh, maybe I'm just like making this up in my head or something.
We spent a lot of time talking about like what's going on in our lives right now, or maybe past things that have happened to us. And it's also important in terms of preparation in your mindset is to think about things that could come up in your future, whether immediate or way down the road, that could bring about those same pressures to be thin. So can you think of things that might come up that could affect that?
I think it maybe when I graduate and get a full-time job, I might be sitting at a desk from like 8 to 5 every day, and I can see myself maybe not taking care of myself in the best ways and becoming kind of sedentary. So I think this is really helpful to think about in the future what I can do to take care of myself.
And even in that job hunting process, maybe even too, like some of those things that we're so worried about kind of get to the forefront is you have to put yourself out there to try and find a job and job interviews and stuff like that. What about other future pressures?
I was gonna say, like if you end up living with a significant other, their eating habits might be really different, and their exercise routines that might work for them but doesn't necessarily work for you. So that might be difficult to like agree on something.
So in just any relationship with a significant other, partner, that brings about body image issues and.
I was thinking about like upcoming vacations and things, like instead of having body image goals for a situation, having like overall goals, like overall eat healthier, like work out a a safe amount of time, this however many times per week, and maintaining it rather than kind of crashing for one event and then going back to, other negative habits maybe on the other end of the spectrum after that event is over.
Yeah, definitely.
So
It's really important to kind of start thinking of those things now. So that way when that time comes, you can be a little bit more prepared rather than like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Wait, I've thought about this before, and these are some things that I can do that can be really helpful. So even beyond this class, I encourage you to spend some time kind of reflecting on, okay, what's coming up in my life and how can I make sure I'm feeling confident, in myself and who I am to handle that in a good way. Well, since this is our last group, one thing I wanted to talk about is things that went really well for you or things that you learned from participating in this group. So can you tell me some of the benefits of body acceptance?
I think it's been great to be with a group of other people, see that other people are concerned or I guess have these issues as well that they experience on a regular basis. So it's nice to have that kind of support, and then also to hear more realistically what, how unrealistic some of the expectations are that are placed on us, and and to learn healthier, realistic ideals.
Yeah, definitely. Was there a particular activity that really stood out as helpful for you?
I think the challenge activity was something that really was helpful to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like a little step, a little challenge, like outside of your comfort zone that you've established for yourself, and seeing it's really not that bad, really helped put it all in perspective.
Do you think this experience has changed the way you think and feel about your own body?
I think just coming here every week and talking about the challenges we've done, or just thinking about how skewed our society is with viewing body image has just helped. It brought it to, my awareness. I was more conscious about everything.
Has your participation in the Body Project changed what you do or will do in the future to promote your own body acceptance?
Hopefully. I come away from this hoping that it's something that I carry with me. I think like Megan mentioned, having those exercises where we actually go out and do this stuff was helpful, rather than just having this group to talk about it and then setting us out. We've already had that step where we got to practice it and then come back to this group and kind of talk through it. So hope to continue to take it with me.
Yeah. How do you think this might change the way you interact with friends or romantic partners or other people in your life?
I think I'll probably be a more pleasant person. Just happier, and like if I'm, at a dinner with my partner in a really like fun or nice restaurant, like there's so many other things we can talk about other than like whether I should eat a salad or not. And so I think, it's really helpful internally for me, but also like externally too. It benefits other people and our relationships.
There's something we said where if you continually think positive thoughts, then you're going to be more positive. If you think more negative thoughts, then you're going to be more down and depressed. So kind of just training your brain to think a different way, which takes practice. So don't feel like I automatically need to feel liberated and, I accept my body wholly. But we hope that it's a step in the right direction to keep training your brain to think a little bit differently. Great. Well, as we come to the end, we'd like to encourage you to continue to challenge some of your body-related concerns, and some of this is talking about our bodies in a positive way rather than a negative way. So I have some ideas to get you started on that. So the first way is you can choose a friend or family member to discuss one thing you like about yourselves, kind of be accountability partners, and maybe take a vow to never talk badly about bodies, yours and other people's. You could keep a journal of all the good things your body allows you to do, so taking a long hike. And the fifth thing is the next time someone gives you a compliment, this is a big one, rather than objecting and say, no, don't worry, just accept it and say thank you, and be willing to accept that positive compliment about ourselves. It's sometimes really hard to do. You always want to counteract that with something differently. So can each of you choose one of these ideas, or you can come up with something on your own and do it sometime next week and then email us and let us know how that goes.
Yeah.
Perfect. So you can consider this sort of like an exit exercise. And doing these things makes it more likely that you'll continue to talk about yourself in a positive way, and this will continue on beyond our class. So you can think of what specific exercise you can do, and let's go around the room and share which one you think you're going to do. We'll start over here, Jennifer.
I think I'm gonna try to make a pact with one of my friends, at my school.
Good. How about you, Katie?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a pact with my roommate.
Oh, that's good. So when you're around a lot with. Okay, we have another home exercise for you guys to do. Our second one is we want you to write another letter to a teenage girl and telling her how to avoid developing some body image concerns. And this can be to a younger sibling, a cousin, or a friend, or anonymous person if you want. And so use that information we've learned during these 4 sessions to write the letter about the cost of pursuing the thin ideal and some of those activities that you learned that you can maybe encourage them to try as well, especially coming up with positive body image things about themselves. And the goal is to help her understand the different things that she can do, say, avoid or learn, that'll help her develop some positive body image things. And then we would love you to send this letter via regular mail or email to the actual person if you're willing to do so. So it might be easier to pick someone than when you're writing the letter. Does that sound doable?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And third, kind of a lot of exit exercises for you guys to do. We want you to do one more form of body activism and email us about what you did. So those things you did, like posting Post-its around the bathrooms or avoiding buying the diet type meals. So one other thing we want you to do, and then let us know how that goes. And then third, we'd like you as a group to do one additional form of body activism. Does that sound doable? Do you guys feel like you could get together and make that happen? Yeah. Perfect. So thank you guys so much for deciding to come to the group, for opening up and sharing and allowing us to talk openly about those body image concerns that we have and how we can deal with that. And we've been really impressed with your thoughtful comments and concerns and for actually doing the work, and we hope that you've gotten something out of that. So, we hope that you tell your friends about the group and share everything that you learned with as many people as possible, because that's the best way to get the word out about that. Thank you.